Hi guys, I'm Dr. Beal.
And I'm Dr. Chip.
And we are veterinarians. Start over.
And we are father and son.
I'm the older, wiser one.
And I'm the younger, hipper one.
Right. I'm certainly the better looking one.
All right. Well, we're running a veterinary hospital together.
And we love hanging out as family together.
And we are best friends. Usually.
Yeah, right, usually. But mostly we have lots of fun together caring for animals.
Well, most of the time it's fun working with you, Dad.
We really do a lot of things together.
That is true. I have pets at home.
And I have pets at home too. Pets that can be a challenge, both behaviorally and medically. That is why we decided to do a podcast together about the realities of pet care.
Called Vets Talk Pets.
It's a place where we will share tips, tricks, and cutting-edge science about pet care.
And maybe a little family stuff too.
So if you want help with all things pet care,
join us as Vets Talk Pets.
Here we go.
Pet parents, welcome back to Vets Talk Pets. Today we are continuing and hopefully finishing our conversation on the top 10 Google questions. And the last two on the list are how to introduce your dogs to new animals in the house, babies, those type of things, and then why do dogs bury bones?
And then next episode, we'll start off on the top 10 for cats. So if you're a cat lover out there, we have not forgotten you.
Yeah, and this has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's been like, I kind of, you made the comment earlier today, like, oh, I'm going to hate to see these top 10 questions end. And we're at the end of the dog questions, but we got 10 more for cats.
Yeah, well, Google's Google, so I'm sure we could.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, the top 10 changes every day with Google. So yeah, we'll try to stay relevant on what people are thinking about.
Okay, are you ready to get started?
I am ready. Let's do this.
All right, well, stick around to the end of the podcast for our case of the week. And then, Mom, are you ready to talk about the cool pet discoveries?
Helping you enjoy your pet more. Here is Julie Beal with this week's Cool Pet Stuff Discovery.
Hello, Julie. Nice to see you again. I see you all day, every day, but it's sure nice to see you sitting in the director's chair for our podcast, too. And you're in charge of the cool pet stuff discovery of the week. And so I'm assuming, I don't even know what it is this week. I'm assuming it's going to be cool.
Hello, and thank you for that sweet introduction. Yes, I found a really cool app, and I've actually been looking for it for a while. It's called Bring Fido, and it's an app that you can, if you're going on vacation or if you're going to a restaurant, you can look to see if the pet's allowed. And it's pretty cool. And one tip on it, it's called Bring Fido. I've actually been looking for an app for this for a long time, but it's if you search under the App Store for pets or animals, it doesn't come up, which is really strange. But it's called Bring Fido. And what's really cool is if you, let's say we're going to Greenville. So if I put in Greenville, it'll give me the hotels. And it will also do reviews on the hotels. Instead of 5 stars, you can give them 5 bones or 4 bones. So people have reviewed these hotels that allow pets. So that's pretty cool. And also the restaurants. A lot of restaurants have places on the patio that they'll let you bring dogs. And when you go into this app, the hotels and the restaurants will actually have a little blurb on what they allow with pets, which is really cool. And I found several around here where we lived, I had no idea.
Really?
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. Also has events and activities like 5K runs that might be coming up in cities. And also you can actually book the hotel through this app.
Huh.
So I think it's really, really cool. So we might need this someday, right?
Well, I'm kind of thinking, I know you're talking about Greenville, or I'm sure it's a nationwide app. But here in Ohio, where we live, Southwest Ohio, Springboro, they've recently passed legislation in Ohio that they've opened up more restaurants to be allowed to have pets on their patio. I don't think they're allowing them in the restaurant itself, but more restaurants in Ohio are becoming pet friendly, and people are starting to look for this more and more. So let's use this app. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a really good app. And, you know, you and I have a retirement goal of being able to go across country with our pet.
Yeah, well, we'll use that.
So I've been looking. Yes,
lot.
I can't wait.
Well, you know, we definitely use the Happy Cow app because we eat a vegan, vegetarian type lifestyle. We'll just add this app so we can find those kind of restaurants that will allow to take Rosie, our dog.
Yes, it's a really great app, and I really recommend it. You can get it in the App Store. It's on Android and it's on Apple. So it's called Bring Fido, and I just love it.
That's cool. Thanks a lot, Julie. Okay, here we are back again with Vets Talk Pets. Chip and I are going to be discussing the last 2 questions of the top 10 questions for dog owners. And after we finish up these 2, we're going to start with the next episode on doing the cats. Chip, what do you think?
I think that there's a very bad smell in the room right now.
Well, I'm really glad. This is unbelievable. I'm really glad that this is an audio platform and there's no olfactory.
Your dog just pooped in the middle of the floor.
Under me. And it's just, I can't my eyes are watering.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
I think our producer just left the room.
Yeah. Hopefully to get something to clean this up.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
But that's okay. We love you, Rosie.
And that's our life. I mean,
it is. And we're going to be talking about a couple behavioral issues today. I mean, this is about as bad a behavior as you
come on. Your dog's 8 months old. It's still pooping. And
oh, my word.
She didn't even hide.
No, right underneath me. So I think she knew we were going to talk. She's looking for you for advice because she's not getting it from me.
Question number 9 is how to introduce your dogs to cats, babies, each other, etc. This is another one that I have some personal experience with. I have a 3.5-year-old son. And our dog, she's 5.5, so we had her first, and she was our first child. We were worried about how's it going to go.
Yeah, you were. I remember you thinking, okay, we tell clients how to do this all the time, but when it's you, it's real, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And you worry about, now you have a baby, and are they going to pull on the dog and get bit? And that it happens. So
yeah, it did. I don't think it happened with Dusty, did it? No, but it does happen.
Well, we lucked out, and Dusty is the most tolerant dog.
Wow, I've seen her be patient with Gage.
Yeah, not a sign of it, but that doesn't mean it still couldn't happen.
Right.
But we can get into that on another podcast on those type of things. But one thing that we did in preparation is a couple weeks before we had Gage, we had the crib set up and get in the room and doing our nesting things. And I YouTubed baby crying sounds. Oh. And I would just put it on my phone and I would lay it in the crib, a baby crying, and just would have it playing just so Dusty could start getting used to the sound of the baby.
Did not know you did that.
Yeah. I don't know if it worked. I like to think it did.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that we did is we had that playing just to get used because, babies are going to be crying all night and dogs do show signs of being anxious when they hear the baby crying, something's wrong. Reports of people talking about my dog will just hang out by the baby's crib when it's crying or come let us know when the baby's crying. Another thing we did is we took one of Gage's blankets that he was given at the hospital when he was first born and wrapped in and laid in, and we took that home to give to Dusty to smell it and lay on it and use it before we brought Gage home from the hospital so she could start getting used to those smells. So I think it worked because they have a very good relationship now. It was a seamless transition. Dusty took right in.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's not always the case. Some dogs can display some pretty anxious behaviors when there's any type. You can move the furniture and that could really throw a dog off. But
right. Just to add to that, I think those are 2 really good. Those are just concrete tips that people can do, and I hope they listen to that and use those tips. When I talk to people in the exam rooms they're pregnant and they're getting ready to have a baby and they ask me those questions, a couple other things that I would add to that I just have been telling people forever is that dog will sense your stress. So if you're really worried about the situation and you're all anxious and moving around kind of jittery and the dog senses that, it's not going to go well. Animals in general and dogs for sure can pick up on your emotions. And if you're fearful of what's going to happen, they'll pick that up and be fearful themselves. So I try to tell my clients when the actual introduction happens to be calm and quiet and relaxed and maybe the light's a little bit low and make that environment more calming. And I'm a big believer in treats. With most of the,
Yeah,
including Rosie here, I've been accused of people have called me treat a minute because I give her a treat a minute whenever she's good. Now she's not getting any treat for that little accident she had.
But
that's
man,
for sure.
This is the first podcast where I've not been able to breathe out of my nose.
My word, it's lingering.
So if it comes off mouthy.
No treats for Rosie today, but I do give a lot of treats to Rosie. And I think during that introduction time when you're making it calm and quiet, and you've given them that blanket that Chip talked about from the hospital and maybe played the crying music and all that ahead of time, have a lot of treats in your pocket so that the dog is happy and make it a real positive family affair. And that's kind of, I think, a good idea.
That is good. I mean, we can really go on with all types of things and just babies. Maybe we'll come back to this topic again. Another thing will be important is there needs to be time that you have just time with your dog like it was before the baby.
Oh, yeah.
Like when the baby's in bed or in the crib, it needs to be some special time with the dog just to kind of reassure that.
A common thing that I tell new moms or expecting moms is that, we had you and your sister, so we know what it's like to have a new baby in the house, and it's pretty natural. The mom is usually pretty darn busy with all the feeding and all the mothering type stuff that goes on in the very beginning and also for the rest of mom's life. But Dad, I tell Dad, I get Dad's attention at this point and say, you may be the one that needs to do what you just said and make sure the dog gets some alone time and attention. If the dog is used to playing with the Frisbee, somebody, usually Dad, because Mom's really busy right now, has to go out and play with Frisbee, or if it's a tennis ball or what, the dog needs to realize that there's not going to be a big introduction in my life. There's a change, but I still get to do the things that I'm used to doing. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Yeah, so that's babies. Now, cats or even other dogs, when you introduce a cat into a house where there's already a dog, I worry more about the cat. The dog is going to want to running around, chase, play, or want to kill it.
Right.
So that's always something to be careful of. So with that being said, if you're going to bring a cat into a house where there's already a cat or a dog, I would isolate that cat just to one room with a litter box and let the cat get acclimated and feel comfortable. And then maybe after a week or even a couple weeks, have some slow introduction time with the other animal supervised. It has to be supervised just to see how the interaction's good. And if it goes really good, I still encourage you to put the cat back into its room just to give it some time to feel safe and comfortable. So and over time, slow introductions, and you can't really make that process too long because cats can show signs of stress months later. And unfortunately, it comes in the form of peeing outside your litter box, which is unforgiving in the house. But
another whole podcast episode.
Yeah. So slow introduction and the same thing for dogs. It's not going to be, it's harder to find a dog to a room, but just make sure that there's never any time with the new dog and your resident dog with time alone. It's really important to see what type of behaviors there are, any type of aggression. Unfortunately, we see a lot of dog fights, and most of the time it's housemates. So.
Oh, yeah. That's always surprising to people. Like they live together, they've been doing fine, and then they just, it's kind of like just had a personality conflict on that day. And boy, those fights can be vicious.
Especially over the feeding process or a toy. It's always resource guarding of some sort.
I'm telling you, and you know this, you work the urgent care too at our office. I mean, every week we're doing surgery on dog fights, isn't it?
Yep.
It's very common. Yeah.
Oh.
Cool.
What else we could really go on. What else we need to talk about introduction? I mean, that's pretty good.
I think those are good answers, and I think it's time to move on to the last question.
Man.
I know, I've noticed that about you. You've been at the practice now for almost a year, and when it comes to behavior, you just don't want to quit talking, do you?
Yeah, no, it's fun.
We have a pretty large staff at the hospital, and you go in a room with a client, and it becomes a behavioral, and we're all looking at each other going, he's going to be a while.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot. I mean, it's not straightforward.
It's not, but your passion is obvious for it, and it's admirable.
And owners come in with a lot of knowledge already about behavior and have tried a lot of things in their homes.
It's not always good knowledge, though.
No.
You have to correct a lot of that, I know.
Yeah.
That's what takes you a lot of time. So, well, keep it up.
Yeah.
You're doing a great job on
thank you.
that. So the last question that we need to I feel like Johnny Carson and doing the headband questions. For those of you,
Johnny Carson,
those millennials out there who don't even know who Johnny Carson is.
Or Jimmy Fallon.
Okay, there you go. There you go. The last question is, why do dogs bury bones? More behavior. So you might like this.
Well, yeah, I'll let you speak on this. I want to start this by saying we have to remember that dogs are animals and we are the ones that domesticated them. I think we talked about this once already. And back in time, years and years ago, all dogs lived in the wild. So I think that's a good thing to start with talking about this topic.
Right. I will be glad to introduce this topic because a lot of you that know me personally at the clinic, I've been in this for almost 40 years. So I've had lots of clients over the years, but I've also developed lots of friendships over the years. And those of you that know me at all know that I am a naturalist. I enjoy nature. I enjoy Mother Nature, and God's creation is just, I embrace that. We live out in the country and on a small little farm, a little hobby farm, and I'm always checking out the deer and the animals and stuff. So, I mean, the behavior of wildlife, like you just said, these wild animals is fascinating to me. Mm-hmm. And these dogs that we have domesticated are nothing more than domesticated wild animals. And so they do have these wild tendencies that we know, and burying bones is the topic, the question today. They did this for survival. Mm-hmm. I mean, food, even for mankind in our early days, food was hard to come by.
Yeah.
So if a dog, like a wolf or a coyote or our early canine ancestors, were kind of on their own, there weren't people buying bagged dog food or canned dog food and opening it and giving it to them. They were out there scavenging around for themselves and either picking up scraps or hunting and killing their own food. And they might not know when their next meal was coming. Mm-hmm. It might be a week or two before they even find another meal, and they have to eat every day just like we do. So it was their preservation. They would bury bones, and they would actually bury food that they couldn't eat at all, so that they could eat again another day. Mm-hmm. And just instinctively, this is what I think is really cool, instinctively they knew that food to be preserved needed to be out of light, because light causes food to spoil, and so does heat. So if you bury food, number one, it's not going to get any light, and number two, the ground is cooler. Mm-hmm. So that food will be preserved longer. And so instinctively, they knew that we have to buy refrigerators and run them with electric, pay all kinds of money and everything to preserve our food. These dogs did it for free, and they did it naturally, and that's most impressive to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they did it for protecting their food from other animals and conserving it and for preserving it.
Some of that also gets to the animal behavior on what we were talking about, dogs fighting, because they would preserve it so they could eat again, but they would also guard it after they would bury it. And that went to when another dog came in the area, they would fight them off. So this fighting behavior is also a natural thing. And then they'll also fight over breeding rights with females too and stuff. There's all kinds of that going on. But food preservation and food guarding is, I think, the answer to the question.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No, I think that's it. That covers it.
Yeah. Well, cool. That's good. And so I'm a behaviorist?
You're a behaviorist. It's unfortunate when it's your backyard. So, that's wild animals. So maybe they retain some of those traits into their life living with people. It's hard to give advice on how to stop them doing it. But what I would say, we talked about this with the sandbox. Give them places that they can dig and have to catch them and let them know where places they can't dig.
Yep.
So
it's interesting how question number 7 was that, and then question number 10 is this. They're everything's kind of interrelated. Yeah. And there's a lot of common sense that goes on here, or a lot of overlap, because I think sometimes we make it harder than it really needs to be. These animals, if we just kind of put ourselves in their place, and it's all kind of related.
Yep.
Kind of cool.
And then we were talking about them being wild animals. Stay tuned for the Anal Gland podcast. Why they have
They
those.
become wild animals, that's for sure.
Or know why they have them. They've retained that.
Yeah, but we have to sometimes relieve them.
Oh, yeah.
And when we relieve them, they become wild animals again. That's
Yeah.
for sure. So, yeah, that's another whole time. Actually, I think this podcast could go on for a long time because just there's one episode leads to another one, doesn't it?
Yep.
But this episode is going to end here shortly with the dog questions, but it's going to start again with the cats coming up. So stay tuned if you're a cat lover.
All right. Sounds good. So are we ready for the case of the week?
Yeah, I think you've done the last couple. I think I'm going to do the case of the week this week because I've actually been in charge of this case at the hospital, and it's been very interesting.
So you're doing things at the clinic now? That's a joke. That is a joke.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm doing less since you've been around, that's for sure. You stepped right in.
No,
It's been a pleasure.
You manage a caseload, that's for sure.
Well, this one, first of all, I want to say that I'm going to talk about handsome this week.
Handsome.
I'm going to talk about myself.
Right, okay. Should be interesting.
No, I'm going to tie.
No idea what you're talking about.
I'm going to tie that into this case. We don't take in strays. Okay, we would be full.
Yeah.
Okay, we just can't do it. It's impossible. We've only got a limited amount of space.
Mm-hmm.
But over the years, with my faith, my Christian faith, I've always felt that if God presents me a case that he's the client and it's a stray animal and it's hurt and needs help, and I've got the ability at that point in time to help, that I've always said I would help.
I know what you're going to talk about now.
Yeah. And so we had a case that I'm sure God sent it. And I've just never said no to God.
It didn't really show up on our front porch.
It did.
Yeah.
And it was just amazing.
At the clinic, not in our house.
At the clinic. And, we have people want to drop strays off all the time. This stray came on its own. There was no owner involved. It just showed up. I was running urgent care last week. It was probably 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And we heard rustling out in the bushes. And it's dark out, and it's just kind of unsettling. So we looked out the window to see what the commotion was, and there was nobody out there. No cars and no people hanging around like we thought maybe. But we kept hearing this commotion in the bushes out front. And we went out to check, and it was a cat. And it was obviously there on its own. It was obviously, I don't want to say sick, but there was something wrong. It was stressed. There was just something wrong. And I'll throw this out there. It's an interesting part about the case. On initial physical exam, the only thing that we really noticed, and it was kind of, I'm thinking, okay, stray cat. I mean, they smell.
Yeah.
But it did have a smoky smell to it. And I didn't put that together until a couple days later. We took it in and fed it and kind of cleaned it up a little bit and did a physical exam, and we really didn't find much other than a stressed cat that seemed to be like stray for a while. But a couple days later, and this is what happens with burns, is everything's okay until it festers, and then the skin kind of dies, and underneath the skin is tough, and it looks bad. And so 2 or 3 days later, we found out why the cat smelled like smoke. Is it had some burn wounds on its belly and on all 4 feet. So as the skin decided to slough because of the burn, then we uncovered the real problem a couple days later. So we started treating this cat and found out that he is a really nice cat. So, I mean, he showed up. I think he knew where to go. I think God sent him. God's the client on this one. There's obviously not going to be any charge. I would have to pay God. I owe him. He doesn't owe me. And so we're treating this cat, and his personality is starting to shine through, and he is a really, really sweet cat. As we're treating these open wounds and we're soothing these wounds, and they are getting better. He's on antibiotics and everything. What happens oftentimes is these cats get under our skin, and we start getting attached to them. And eventually the staff ends up naming them.
There you go.
And you know you're in trouble when the stray cat gets a name.
Yes.
And I'll tie in the introduction now. At this point, the stray cat's name is Handsome.
Great.
So Handsome is now at our office. I think there's a picture of him
Really good cat.
on our vetstalkpets.com website. If you want to see a picture of him. We're also doing videos and documenting the entire progress of the case, which will probably end up on Facebook later.
Springboro Veterinary Hospital Facebook page.
Correct.
Yeah.
You'll be able to see the entire everything that happened and how bad it looked and how good it's going to look in the end. It's already looking better, and his personality's improving. I took a picture of him yesterday. He looked like just a regular cat, purring and curled up in the cage sleeping. And so, I mean, he's going to have a full recovery. And here's the plug, guys. He's going to need a home.
Yes.
So if there's anybody that's interested in a really nice, sweet cat, he's very handsome. We're going to need somebody to step up and adopt Handsome. I don't know when. It's day by day, but I'm thinking 3 or 4 weeks from now, we're going to be kind of looking to find a home for him. So check him out on the Vets Talk Pets page or the Springboro Veterinary Hospital Facebook page.
All right. Well, that was a lot of fun. If you guys, we would really appreciate your reviews. And you can find us on a lot of different platforms. iTunes, of course, Google Play, Stitcher. That's a new one for me. SpringBoroVet.com, Spotify, and VetsTalkPets.com.
Sounds good.
All right.
See you next episode.
Thanks, guys.